Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm Morton Blackwell, president of the Leadership Institute, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this Wednesday Wake Up Club breakfast. We live in interesting times. I notice that the Democrats in the Congress and elsewhere are screaming that President Trump needed congressional authorization for doing what he's doing in Iran. And it's so two-faced because Democrat presidents, all Democrat presidents in our lifetimes have done similar things without this. And the two-faced nature is, I guess, not surprising, but it is a little bit amusing how they're showing moral indignation on what Trump did, and yet they sat quietly by and defended Democrat presidents who did the same thing. I encourage you all to live tweet today's breakfast. The hashtag should be on the screen here for you to do that. In 2026, your Leadership Institute has already trained 1,042 conservatives at 184 individual training events. Since 1979, the Institute has trained more than 360,947 activists, students, and leaders. And you have before you our schedule for programs of the upcoming month. Please take a moment to review these training schools and consider attending one yourself or sending a friend to one of these trainings. If you're watching online, and I know that many are, please visit our website at leadershipinstitute.org/training to see upcoming online and in-person trainings. And to give the leaders with an invocation or pledge of allegiance, I present Jamie McNally, the Career Services Intern here at the Leadership Institute. She is originally from Evergreen, Colorado, and she now resides in Panama City Beach, Florida. Show of hands, how many of you have ever been to Panama City Beach? A fair number of you have. I first visited Panama City Beach on a family vacation in 1948 when I was 8 years old. And it was an interesting vacation, and one memorable thing about Panama City Beach is that the beach there, I'd never seen anything like it, and I've traveled all across the world since then, and I've never seen anything else like the beach at Panama City Beach. The beach is pure, blinding white beach, and apparently it's the sand is all crushed up clear quartz. And when you walk on the sand at Panama City Beach, what does it do? It squeaks. When you walk on it, it literally squeaks. So it's a neat place for a vacation. She graduated from Colorado Christian University School of Business and Leadership in May of 2023, earning a bachelor's degree in leadership, specializing in outdoor education with an emphasis in biblical studies. While attending college, Jamie participated in an all-campus pro-life club. Now, in Florida, she's active in local politics and participating in roundtable meetings, volunteering, and recently attending the Florida Governor's Dinner. In her free time, she enjoys spending time with her nephews and niece. She enjoys rock climbing, which you could do in Colorado, but not much rock climbing in Florida. She trains in martial arts and in reading. Jamie, come up, please, and lead us in the pledge and offer an invocation. Okay.
All right, if you could all bow your heads with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Please be seated. Thank you, Jamie. And now I present Holly Horn, who will give us a programs report. She is Director of Legislative Leaders Programs here at the Leadership Institute. She is an experienced political consultant and campaign manager with a strong background in grassroots activism and campaign strategy. She began her career back in 2002 as a constituent services representative for U.S. Senator George Allen here in Virginia. Holly has managed high-profile campaigns, including Congressman Ken Buck's re-election. She has also consulted on gubernatorial, state representative, and local elections. She joined the state and local leaders team here at Leadership Institute in June of 2023 as Deputy Director for Colorado, and in May 25 she was named Director of Legislative Leaders Programs. Additionally, she serves as faculty for the Leadership Institute's International School of Politics, which is, I say, this year something up in the air because we were scheduled to conduct the International School of Politics in Jerusalem this summer, and we're not quite sure how easy it's going to be for people to fly in and out there. By then, the thing may be settled. Holly resides in Colorado with her husband and two sons, who are 18 and 11. In her personal capacity, she is a member of the Colorado Republican State Central Committee. Holly, come give us our programs report, please.
Thank you, Morton. Good morning, everyone. As Morton said, my name is Holly Horn, and I'm the director of the Legislative Leaders Program here at the Leadership Institute. I became involved in the conservative movement as a teen, working on campaigns up and down the ballot, before making the move to the official side to work in the office of United States Senator George Allen, and I loved it. During my time there, I had the opportunity to witness a communicative legislator in action and a high-performing office with structure to support the work he was doing for the people of Virginia. At the end of my time there, I went back into the campaign world where I worked with candidates from school board to state legislature to U.S. Senate. They knew what they wanted to accomplish when elected, but were often overwhelmed by how to execute their vision once in the role. I also saw elected officials doing great work, but failing to communicate the wins for their district to the constituents who live there. The lack of communication often resulted in the loss of their seat based on perceived inaction, the loss of a good legislator for the people. That is where the Legislative Leaders Program comes in. We fill the gaps for members from the freshman to the most seasoned lawmaker. I actually had a representative going into his fourth and final term call me as I was driving home from their program the day after to tell me all the ways he was going to implement what he learned and how his wife, who also serves as his aide, was going to get right to work on the things we had suggested. State houses are where the future is decided. Nearly every major issue begins in those chambers, and investing in the development of the men and women who serve there is one of the most strategic investments conservatives can make. Influence requires infrastructure, and every lasting movement depends on disciplined leadership. We take this program out on the road all across the nation with the team of your Leadership Institute staff and expert faculty. And I have some slides here to speak a little bit more about this. So the legislative leaders, I'm going to pull this step over here. Okay, so the Legislative Leaders Program held its pilot program in December of 2023 in the state of Colorado, working with members of their House. To date, programs have been executed 3 times in Colorado, 3 times in Minnesota, where we worked with the now Speaker of the House, Lisa Dameth, in Vermont, Alaska, Georgia, the New Mexico House, and South Dakota. Things were so successful in the New Mexico House training, we worked with them the week before they went into session this year. The day session concluded, the Senate side reached out and asked us to come back to work with them, and we will be there March 18th through 20th. We will also be working with the Nevada House and Senate, Montana House and Senate, and on the House side in New Jersey, Maine, Alaska, Arkansas, Georgia, New Hampshire, and Oregon, all in 2026. We also have a list nearly as long of this as states that are ready to confirm dates. They just haven't done so yet. So there is a lot of buy-in for this program. We spent a lot of time pounding the pavement to get in front of caucus leadership in all of these states that we weren't really previously acquainted with as far as the Legislative Leaders Program was concerned. So that hard work is now paying off with a lot of buy-in. Through the Legislative Leaders Program, state lawmakers can fine-tune their skills in constituent services, one-on-one on-camera media interviews. We pull them out of the main session for 20 minutes at a time to work with the media expert on fine-tuning those skills. How to handle negative information, leading with the value, persuasive speaking, strategic communication. In some states, their caucus is very divided, and they need to work on caucus team building, so they'll ask us to incorporate a lot of that. In other states, they need help messaging their policy priorities, and we come in and work with them on the messaging surrounding that. An effective use of artificial intelligence systems. I want to make a quick note about parliamentary procedure. Many of these members are elected and have absolutely no idea how to go in and use Mason's manual because outside of state legislatures, you don't really find yourself using that a lot. One of our state and local leaders division team members, Stephen Aaron, has developed a tactical Mason's manual training program that actually has a workbook included that is the only one of its type in the country that we give to these legislators to help them be tactical, especially when they're in minorities and super minorities. The parliamentary procedure is abused in order to keep them from speaking. They learn how to stand up and have that right and ability to speak to represent their constituents. So that is really a fascinating program. And I will let you hear a little from some of our graduates themselves.
I'm from Billings, Montana, represent House District 39, and I'm in the Montana House of Representatives. I was seated next to the infamous Holly Horn. We became instant friends and decided that this would be a really good opportunity for me to share my story. But what I love about it is I get to meet leaders from across the United States as well. And what a wonderful opportunity it is for me, and it's such an honor for me to work with Leadership Institute. My first day of session, there was only 2 things that I knew. Number 1, I didn't know what I was doing, and number 2, I wasn't going to wear a face mask. With that being said, what's so valuable is that a lot of times we don't know what we're doing as legislators. But the greatest thing and why this is so exciting for me to participate in the Leadership Institute is there are programs, there are modules, there's times to talk to other legislators to help train me to do a better job. And I realized at the end of my 3rd session that that was my role, was to help others do a better job at what they were doing so that there wasn't such a huge bell curve of folks learning how to do their jobs. And that's why I am so excited to be working with Leadership Institute to help train us to do a better job quicker.
I'm Taylor Rayfelt. I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I represent District 14 in the House of Representatives. I'm familiar with the leadership program through my relationship with Heather and Holly. After I met Heather, I went onto the website and did some research into Leadership Institute. I definitely think the media training would be the most beneficial for at least some of our legislative leadership that we have. It's a struggle to find the opportunity for many of us to participate in those types of trainings in South Dakota. We don't have huge media companies, and specifically a lot of our media leans very left versus conservative, and so we're looking for more conservative principled messaging in teachings with learning communication techniques and how to better communicate with your constituents, which we've learned today, which has been wonderful.
Yeah.
Just fosters the relationships between the public and legislators. I think the really amazing part for our group specifically is there are a lot of older individuals that are currently sitting legislators and a lot of older individuals that are currently going to run this next election cycle, and they're very unfamiliar with social media. So one of the things I noticed is that you could see all of their ears perking up and really paying attention when it came to the discussion on not just social media, but data, and the data conversations about how you can actually target people. I don't think they've ever known that that's an opportunity, because 25 years ago, it probably wasn't. The Leadership Institute has been very instrumental in making sure that we have the tools that are necessary to promote conservative leadership. The training has been comprehensive, all that's been very factual and actually useful. Sometimes you go to trainings and you don't actually get valuable information, which, we all complain about sometimes. We have all these conferences. This has been different. We've had really valuable information that is actually going to be impactful. So thank you.
Gail Armstrong, House District 49. House Minority Leader and State Representative. The crisis training has been phenomenal. Leadership Institute just overall has been phenomenal. All of the feedback from all of our caucus members has been really well received. So it's been nothing but seamless. You guys did all the work. What a great location here in New Mexico. You all chose that. The biggest competitive advantage is the amount of different trainings that you all offer, and that you customize it to what we are looking for and what we need. It's just been phenomenal. I just want to give a heartfelt thank you. I get a little emotional because I know, as a business owner and trying to change the world, trying to change New Mexico, how much we appreciate this avenue for us to have. We as individuals try our best to give back to families in the state of New Mexico and across the nation. I hope you know that how much our entire caucus appreciates it, but our grandchildren, our children in the state of New Mexico have you all to thank for bringing something like this to us, and the way that it was implemented was just seamless, and we can't thank you enough. Sorry, I always do that.
So that was just a little bit directly from some of our graduates about how this important new program has affected them. The long-term goal is clear: to make Trained by the Leadership Institute a mark of excellence among legislators. Through this program, we will help to create true statesmen within the governing class who will serve their constituents well and will strengthen conservative leadership. Winning is only step one. Governing well is how you change the future. Thank you. One second. I'm going to talk about the women's program real quick. I'm not quite done. Sorry. That just concluded the Legislative Leaders Program portion. But I was also asked to come here to talk to you about another exciting program we have happening under the programs department, and that is the Women's Leadership Program. We just successfully completed our inaugural program on February 25th, 2026, just last week in this very room. It was held here at the headquarters. Attendees included candidates, sitting legislators, entrepreneurs, film producers, and more. Special guest speaker was United States Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remer, and the ladies were really inspired hearing from her. Heather Sellers is the director of this program, and she was assisted by Julie Harris in its successful launch. We had a reception the night before our day of training at the European Union Ambassador's residence, and she was great to welcome us before she headed over to the State of the Union address. This was really an exciting time for these women leaders to be able to be there with her. And here are just a few pictures from that great event. This is the website where you can go to learn more about the new Women's Leaders Program. They are actively preparing for their next program that will be late in Q2. And there are many women who are excited to be a part of it. The Leadership Institute's programs and events are made possible through the generous support of our principal donors, including the legislative and women's leaders programs. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you very much, Holly, giving people here at the luncheon, or the breakfast rather, and who are watching us online a better feel for what the Leadership Institute is achieving. Occasionally we restate and repeat the Leadership Institute's mission statement. Every organization should have a mission statement. And most of you know, some of you don't know, that our mission statement is to increase the number and effectiveness of conservative activists and leaders in the public policy process being government, politics, and the news media. That is what we do. There are lots of other conservative organizations out there. Some of them do training. We're happy about that. We do not consider that any of the other conservative organizations are our rivals. We actually consider them our allies. We've helped them create and improve their own training programs, because our aim is to build a movement, not an empire. Now I introduce to you Michaela O'Neill. She is the J. Henges Center for Youth Leadership intern now at the Leadership Institute. And she, as it happens, also is from Florida, Naples, Florida. She's currently attending Palm Beach Atlantic University. Sounds like a tough school, Palm Beach Atlantic University. She's studying politics and pre-law. She plays there an active role in the Turning Point USA chapter and serves as a core member of the student-led worship team, Anchor. Michaela has gained first-hand experience in political journalism through an internship with James O'Keefe, where she learned podcast production, political writing, and donor engagement. In her free time, Michaela enjoys reading, going for long runs, and spending time with friends. This spring semester, she looks forward to advancing and contributing to the conservative movement through her work here at the Leadership Institute. Michaela, come up, please, and introduce our featured speaker.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome Michael Donnelly. He is an attorney and law professor and longtime advocate for homeschooling, parental rights, and educational freedom. He previously served as the vice president at Yes Every Kid Foundation and as senior counsel and director of global outreach for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, supporting homeschooling families in the United States and abroad. A Persian Gulf War Army combat veteran, Mike holds a Juris Doctor from Boston University of Law and an LLM in the Constitutional and Human Rights Law from the London School of Economics. He is a published author and frequent speaker on issues related to homeschooling and human rights. He taught constitutional law at Patrick Henry College for nearly 2 decades and currently teaches international law for the Regent Law School as an adjunct professor. Will you please join us?
Well, good morning, everyone, and I'm a homeschool dad of 7. Thank you to my wife and to the Lord for getting us through that. Yes, you can clap for my wife. You'll know why even more after I'm done. Wow, it's truly an honor to be back here at the Leadership Institute. It's been a few years, and I'm looking out, I see some very familiar faces and some new faces. Really great to be here today. And Morton, I just want to say, you must be so proud of your team. Incredible. And Morton, I want to thank you for your vision, for the decades that you have invested in the future of our country. Thank you. Thank you. You really are an inspiration, Morton. You're doing so well. Well, friends, let's see. How do I get this thing going here? Oh, there we go. Can you pick me out of the lineup? Yes, I'm a veteran of the Persian Gulf War. And the first one, the decisive military action that our president took last week or over the weekend reminds me of Romans chapter 13 from the Bible, which says that God ordains the authority of civil government and that they are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the evildoer. So I want to ask you to join with me in a few moments to pray, to reflect for our warriors, our leaders, and their families. So please, will you pray with me in silence? God, I pray for the protection for our warriors, wisdom for our leaders, and comfort and encouragement for their families. Amen. So I've entitled my remarks this morning, Born in the USA, Subjects or Citizens? Jus soli, jus sanguinis, and jus consensus. No orange juice. The 14th Amendment and American citizenship. A lot of people like to say that America was built on immigrants, and I think there's a lot of truth to that statement. In fact, I'm very grateful to my grandparents who left their homes and families in the early 1900s. I'm a second-generation Irish man, son, grandson on my father's side, and I'm looking forward to some corned beef and cabbage soon on March 17th. Hon, if you're watching, yes, I'm looking forward to that. It's once a year we get corned beef and cabbage in the Donnelly household. It should be more often, but that's okay. My grandfather was from Tralee. He was a trained man in New York City for 40 years, 20 of which he worked after having a stroke and being partially paralyzed. My grandfather and grandmother had 7 children. My mother's family, she was one of 8, came from Hungary a few years earlier from a town called Kisvarda. That town is engraved on one of the walls of remembrance at the Holocaust Museum. Her dad was a paymaster in the Army in World War II, and his brother, my great-uncle, served in the 3rd U.S. Cavalry. I served in the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment as well. I grew up in rural New Hampshire. I spent 3 hours a day on a bus every day for 12 years, almost 12 years. We used to say it's child abuse to be raised, to live in Grafton, New Hampshire. But I was raised by a single mom. I was one of 3 boys who worked her tail off so we could have a better life. And I often say I'm here today because of my mom and because she had such high standards. She would often say, Mike, as long as you're not an axe murderer, we'll be good. She's gone on to be with the Lord now, but I think she'd be proud that I'm not an axe murderer. Mom, good, right? So many of our ancestors, perhaps even some of you in this room, came here with nothing but a dream, perhaps. And in most cases, you were given nothing. They were given nothing, except an opportunity to work hard, to take risk, and to be rewarded for their labor. Seems like things have changed a little bit. Tens of billions of dollars of apparent welfare fraud in migrant communities among illegal and legal newcomers. The Somali community in Minnesota is just one example. But it's not just fraud. Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungary, so many others. Is it me, or does it feel like every couple of weeks we hear of another illegal alien with a commercial's driver's license who cannot speak or read English, who drives their 18-wheeler into a truck with somebody's grandfather in it or into a van containing Amish people? Do you remember this chart? The chart that saved the president's life on July 14th. Do you believe in coincidence? And then what happened 6 months later or so, maybe 7, do my math. There he was in the Oval Office. You remember that? You remember that night? It was a sign-a-thon. There was this executive order. There was this executive order. Hours, order after order. And one of those orders was number 14160, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. It starts, the privilege of United States citizenship is a priceless and profound gift. This order directed federal agencies to stop issuing citizenship documents to children born in the territory of the United States when the mother was either unlawfully present or on a temporary visa, and the father was neither a citizen nor a lawful permanent resident. This order was prospective. It affected children born on or after February 19th, 2025. In a 2023 Truth Social video previewing the policy, President Trump called automatic universal birthright citizenship a reward for breaking the laws of the United States and obviously a magnet helping draw the flood of illegals across our borders. Lawsuits were filed within hours. The order has never been enforced. Now, after the Supreme Court's ruling in the initial case, you remember that was Trump v. Casa last June, this is the one that struck down nationwide universal injunctions. I mean, come on, one district judge in one state can stop an entire law of a country? I mean, that's just crazy. Good job, Supreme Court. It took a long time to get there. But then the ACLU pivoted from that, right? Because, okay, nationwide injunction. But the court said, well, you can do this thing called the nationwide class action. And that's what they did and filed Barbara v. Trump. The Supreme Court accepted cert on December 5th, and oral arguments are scheduled for April 8th. Now, the ACLU filed this case saying birthright citizenship is an issue that is, quote, settled by constitutional amendment since 1868 and by the Supreme Court precedent since 1898. They're referring to the Wong Kim Ark case, which we will talk about in a moment. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund says challenging birthright citizenship is an attempt to, quote, resurrect a racialized notion of who gets to be an American citizen. Ending it, they say, will create a, quote, permanent, multi-generational subclass. And, we have to be bipartisan, right? On behalf of 28 former Republican officials, the Yale Rule of Law Society wrote in a brief that Wong Kim Ark established the, quote, ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the territory that has, quote, formed a cornerstone of our constitutional order. Now, as of last summer, polls showed that many Americans support so-called birthright citizenship. But if you've been around as long as I have, the truth is not always so obvious. And if the mainstream media is pushing a particular narrative, it might be a good bet that the truth is elsewhere. It's just not that simple. I think of the ACLU's position on birthright citizenship as kind of the emperor's new clothes of immigration law. They're spinning with invisible thread. Some go along afraid to reveal their ignorance. Some to curry favor. Some don't care. Some may be blinded by misguided sympathy. And there may be other reasons. Maybe you'll share some of your reasons with me. But I wonder who might be the boy pointing out, saying, the emperor has no clothes. What everyone is afraid to say. Can it really be that the child of an illegal alien, someone who broke the law, who came here, we don't even know they're here, or a tourist who's visiting Disneyland and is on a little bit, a woman who's pregnant 8 months and she's on a ride and it's getting a little, she's here and, oh my goodness, we're going to have a baby in Space Mountain. Can it really be that that child is a citizen of the United States of America? Can it really be that after 250 years, 250 years, we are still trying to figure out what it means to be a citizen of these United States of America. Well, it's not the first time it's taken us a while to get around to momentous constitutional issues. I mean, how long did it take the Supreme Court to get around to opining on what the Second Amendment meant? D.C. versus Heller, 2008, over 200 years. And in West Virginia, my home state, we just passed a law allowing people to buy and sell machine guns. Hua, let's go. Isn't that great? I mean, what's wrong with a machine gun? They're fun. They're really fun, really. People should be able to shoot a machine gun if they want to. They really should. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, I'll just stop there. I could talk about machine guns. How many of you, let's show of hands. Well, maybe we shouldn't do a show of hands on this one. How many of you think women should not be permitted to vote? 19th Amendment, 1920, 160 years. 50 years to overturn Roe v. Wade, yet abortions continue. We can take time to get around to momentous issues in our country, and we don't always get them right the first time, do we? But as it's often said, there are two sides to every story. So let me ask you a question. When it comes to mind, what comes to mind when I ask you this question? What do you think is the most basic, the most foundational principle on which our constitutional republic is built? I wonder what Morton would say. I think there's a lot of good answers I could think of. I could think of religious freedom. The Pilgrims came here for religious freedom, but that was before the Constitution. Capitalism, but that's not really in the Constitution. Representative government, federalism. We're celebrating the 250th anniversary of that amazing document written by that committee, Thomas Jefferson. There were other people involved, but we know Thomas wrote it. We know that John Adams had a little helped a little bit. I'm sure Ben Franklin, gave his views. But what does it say? Let's just read a little bit. I love the Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events, would it have been great to be there to hear Thomas Jefferson read it himself? When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitles them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. What do you think about that word consent? Well, let me ask you this. Can subjects consent? Can subjects consent? Blackstone lays it out in his commentaries like this. Natural-born subjects are such as are born within the dominion of the crown of England, that is, within the allegiance of the king, and aliens are born out of it. Allegiance is the tie which binds the subject to the king in return for that protection which the king affords the subject. This allegiance was perpetual and irrevocable, however you want to pronounce it. It was a debt of gratitude that arose the instant you were born on the king's soil, and it could not be forfeited, canceled, or altered by any change of time, place, or circumstance. You didn't choose it. You didn't consent to it. You were born into it. Kind of like how a serf was born on the Lord's manor and became property of the Lord. The king protects you, and you owe him your allegiance. The exchange is automatic and permanent. That is feudalism, and it is called jus soli, which is just Latin for by right of soil. This is what the Wong Kim Ark majority imported into American constitutional law in 1898. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The opposite of jus soli is jus sanguinis or sanguini. I don't know how you pronounce that, but depends on whether you're French or Roman, I guess. But anyway, by right of blood or by descent. Under this rule, the status of the parents, whether they were under the sovereign's protection, was key for the child's citizenship. And it was the sovereign's consent to the alien's presence that was a precondition for extending protection. No permission, no protection. No protection, no allegiance. No allegiance, no subjectship. But I would argue, I need to see what the next slide is. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually looking at that screen below you there, my friend, because it's reminding me whether I should click the button or not. Yeah, that's perfect. I'm good. We're good. Hold on. No. We're good. That's good. Keep it here. I just wasn't sure what the next one was. Thank you. Sorry. But the founders, I would argue, rejected hereditary lines, right? They rejected that was just by the blood. I mean, the Constitution rejects titles of nobility, which are hereditary, right? And also specifically prohibits corruption of the blood in cases of treason or attainder. So to the founders, I would argue that consent was the indispensable element. I call it jus consensus. I think I made that up, actually. Well, consent by the person and consent by the sovereign. And because children are naturally under the care and protection of their parents, the status of the parent must matter. Remember, the Declaration dissolved political bands. It severed an alliance that Blackstone said could not be severed. So would it make sense that this has to be part of the equation? So under this framework, citizenship is not a debt of geography, it is a relationship of mutual obligation. The sovereign consents to extend protection, the citizen consents to bear allegiance. No consent, no citizenship. So birthright citizenship really turns on how we make sense of this conversation under the 14th Amendment, which says, what you see right here, proposed in 1866, adopted in 1868 after the bloodiest conflict our country has ever experienced. It was drafted to ensure clarity after the 1857 Supreme Court decision in Dred Scott. You remember that one where the Supreme Court, Justice Taney, said that African slaves could never be citizens of the United States. They were property and could never be citizens of the United States. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment reads this way. All persons born or naturalized. Now look, we got to be grammatical here. Any grammarians in the room? We need the grammarians. This is important. All persons born or naturalized in the United States, comma, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Born or naturalized, one clause, qualifying clause, comma, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which qualifies the previous clause, right? We know what born means, and Congress has exclusive authority under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. But what does subject to the jurisdiction thereof mean? Well, that's easy, some say. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. If you're physically present in the United States of America, if you're born here, obviously you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right? Quid pro quo. Well, not quite. A equals B, B equals C, A equals C. Not so fast. First, I would argue that it is not A equals B, B equals C, A equals C. This interpretation is not logical because the clause and subject to the jurisdiction thereof qualifies both born and naturalized equally. And because no clause or phrase in the Constitution can be superfluous, we have a Rule of construction, that every word, every phrase, every clause, every commas are important in the Constitution. Merely being born in the territory itself isn't sufficient. It can't be. It has to mean something more. And it turns out the framers of the 14th Amendment understood that mere physical presence is not what they were talking about. So just a quick quotes from the past. Senator Jacob Howard, who introduced the clause, said it required a, quote, full and complete jurisdiction that is coextensive in all respects with the constitutional power of the United States. Senator Lyman Trumbull, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, he was asked what it meant. He said, well, quote, not owing allegiance to anyone else. Some would say, well, that just means the Indians, because they're, they owe allegiance to their tribe. Or that just means the children of diplomats were excluded because, they owe allegiance to their, the country. Those were excluded, clearly, but it was more than that. How do we know that? Well, let's read what the Supreme Court said right after the 14th Amendment was adopted. In 1872, in the Slaughterhouse cases, Justice Miller wrote, if a stranger or traveler passing through or temporarily residing in this country who has not himself been naturalized and who claims to owe no allegiance to our government has a child born here and then goes out of the country with its father, such child is not a citizen of the United States because it was not subject to its jurisdiction. In 1884, in Elk v. Wilkins, the court wrote that the Citizenship Clause confers citizenship only on children whose parents are, quote, owing no allegiance to any alien power. The Francis Wharton Authoritative 1887 Digest of International Law, I know you all have one on your bookshelf, concluded the same, reasoning that this would exclude children born in the United States to foreigners here on transient residence. Multiple international law treatise writers agreed this was mainstream legal scholarship in the decades following the adoption of the 14th Amendment. Excuse me. Consider also this, that in 1868, Congress passed the Expatriation Act, declaring the following, quote, and really, I think, reminding everybody of what the founders did. Quote, the right of expatriation is a natural and inherent right of all people, indispensable to the enjoyment of the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Meaning people have a right to sever the bond of subjectship if they can escape, sometimes, right? And choose to give allegiance to another and to receive for themselves and their children the rights, the privileges, and the immunities that come with citizenship. This consent, this willful choice, was at the core of what it means, is at the core, I would say, of what it means to be a citizen. We cannot simply import the English rule of jus soli into our constitutional framework. But wait, the ACLU says, and everybody else says. Wonky mark. It's already been decided. It's settled. It's precedent. It's stare decisis. All right, let's talk about Wonky Mark. I think that's him. When you Google Wonky Mark, that's the only picture you can find. So I'm assuming that's Wonky Mark. He was born in the United States to parents who were lawful, permanent residents. The only reason Wong Kim Ark's parents were not citizens of the United States was because Congress had specifically excluded them from the possibility of naturalization. And this was by the Chinese Exclusion Act, passed, I think, in 1882. And remember, Congress has that power under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. It can exclude anybody they want who they don't want to naturalize. There's total power. But the parents were here legally. And they had given their allegiance and were receiving the protection of the United States. They had businesses here. They went back to China, but they came back. It was their home. Which made Wong Kim Ark, who was born in the United States, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So Wong Kim Ark met the constitutional requirements of citizenship, clearly. The Chinese Exclusion Acts also did not address children born in the U.S. to Chinese people. In fact, it wasn't until much later that Congress ever addressed the issue of illegal aliens' children. So Trump's EO deals with the question the court never reached. What about children of illegal aliens or temporary visitors? That's the issue in Barbara v. Trump. Specifically, whether the executive order complies on its face with the Citizenship Clause and with 8 U.S.C. Section 1401A, which codifies that clause. 1401A simply cuts and pastes that section of the 14th Amendment. Okay, what's next? I got ahead of myself. I think. Did I get ahead of myself? Yes, I did. It's a little preview there. So, this idea of birthright citizenship, we're born here equals citizenship, is an administrative anachronism. How do you like that? You ever hear that before? Maybe I made that up too. After the Reagan amnesty deal in the 80s, members of Congress began introducing legislation to define this phrase. And the proposals were to specifically exclude the children of illegal aliens. And it started with none other than that great conservative Republican, Harry Reid. Oh, I'm sorry. Harry Reid, that great liberal Democrat, right? I will say that he later recanted, saying, "This is one of the biggest mistakes I ever made." Isn't it interesting? After that, almost every Congress, these bills have been introduced, most recently by Senators Tom Cotton and Lindsey Graham, with sponsors like Cruz, Hagerty, Moreno, Blackburn, Britt, and in the House, representatives like Matt Gaetz, Claudia Tenney, and Brian Babbitt. But in response to Reid's bill, in 1995, the Clinton DOJ, the Office of Legal Counsel, was run by Walter Dellinger. And he wrote a legal memo saying that law would be unquestionably unconstitutional. What was his authority? Wong Kim Ark. So-called immigration rights groups were very loud and put a lot of pressure on Congress. And so they punted. The political will was not there. In Barbara v. Trump, all the district courts have waved around, Wong Kim Ark, Wong Kim Ark. It's settled law. Trump's order is patently unconstitutional. I wonder if when they say settled law, they kind of mean like settled science. What do you think? Is that what they mean? Justice Sotomayor in Trump v. Casa was joined by Kagan and Jackson, and in her dissent, she cites Wong Kim Ark and the DOJ memo, and she says the law is settled. As Stalin once said, I'm not calling her Stalin, as Stalin once said, and Chris Plant loves to repeat. Anybody listen to Chris Plant in the morning? I listen to Chris Plant every morning when I'm working out. It's great. A lie told once is a lie, but a lie told 1,000,000 times becomes the truth. Or, in the words of Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. So, what is this court going to do? Well, we know what Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson are going to do. They're going to vote to strike down the order. We don't have to guess. They already said that. Sotomayor's dissent in the injunction case insisted that, quote, every conceivable source of law, inconceivable, every conceivable source of law confirms birthright citizenship. Jackson went further, accusing the majority of enabling, quote, an existential threat to the rule of law. 3 votes against. Thomas may be the strongest vote for the admin. He's an originalist. He's willing to recognize a robust, independent executive power. His concurrence in Casa was joined by Gorsuch, pressed for the narrowest limits on judicial power to obstruct the executive. On the deportation flights case, Thomas and Alito were the only 2 dissenters when the court blocked the administration's Alien Enemies Act removals. Thomas could write a great originalist opinion holding that, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof means full allegiance, consent, allegiance, protection, citizenship, and not merely physical presence. Alito could join him. His deportation flights dissent accused the majority of acting hastily on dubious factual support to obstruct presidential immigration enforcement. Okay, so let's start the bidding at 3-2. I should put like little circles around them, don't you think, as I go through this? You guys are the guinea pigs here, okay? I did this with my family once before, and they said it was okay, but I want your feedback. Kavanaugh. What's Kavanaugh going to do? Kavanaugh appears sympathetic, right? He was one of 3 justices with Thomas Alito who sided with the president on the tariff authority under the IEPA. And you don't have to agree with that, but it's okay. We can have a diversity of opinion. But Kavanaugh argued the court should defer to the president's reading of, quote, broad statutory language, and warned of, quote, serious practical consequences from overturning executive action that the administration is building policy around. That's in the president's favor here, especially given that the executive order is prospective. So let's give the president Kavanaugh 3-3. Barrett, Amy Coney Barrett. She wrote the CASA majority opinion, the opinion that told the lower courts they had exceeded their authority in blocking the executive order. Remember the zinger? Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. That'll go down through the ages. But she also joined the tariff majority against the administration and joined the majority blocking the deportation flights. The question, I think, is whether the originalist evidence on, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof is strong enough to persuade her that Wong Kim Ark's broad ruling applies to a category of persons it never considered. What's she going to do? She's a wild card, in my opinion. I don't know. Gorsuch can be a little challenging to read. He's a committed textualist. He says he's an originalist. But what about Bostock? Bostock was the gender identity case under Title VII, if you remember that one. I don't know. But some say he's cut from Scalia's mold. Can you imagine Scalia? Oh, my goodness. He would absolutely fight to write the opinion on this case. A question of an original public meaning, a textualist puzzle with deep historical evidence, and a chance to correct an error that rests on assumption rather than analysis. Justice Scalia, where are you? But Gorsuch may have a soft spot on immigration. He sided with the alien in a deportation case in 2018 called Sessions v. DiMaia. This was a case about whether a federal criminal statute was vague. Okay, so we'll see. But he also joined Thomas's concurrence in the CASA case, pressing for a very narrow judicial power. If originalist evidence persuades him, he'll follow it. I think it leans in favor of Trump. So I'm going to give him to Trump. 4-3. With Barrett still a wild card. Okay. The Chief Justice. Yeah. Oh, boy. Chief Justice John Roberts. Chief Justice John Roberts, what are you going to do? Such an institutionalist. I say that in a very complimentary way. He concurred only in the Dobbs judgment, you remember, to uphold Mississippi's ban on abortions. He did not join the majority, overruling Roe entirely, wanting the narrow path. He wrote the tariff case majority, a muscular opinion, asserting that the president cannot claim vast unilateral power through ambiguous statutory language. Oh, but Justice Roberts, what about NFIB v. Sebelius? Everybody remembers NFIB v. Sebelius, right? The Obamacare case. A tax, the penalty. Do you remember? Oh, Justice Roberts, he twisted himself into a pretzel to save Obamacare. What is he going to do with this broad statutory language? But he is also very shrewd, and perhaps if he sees 4 of his colleagues going one way, he will position himself to shape the opinion. And Congress has not spoken. Remember, Congress has not filled this space. So the court is at liberty to say what the Constitution means. In fact, if Justice Kennedy were around, he would say, this is the court's place 100%, because as he said in Bernie v. Flores back in 1997, it's the ultimate power of the court to say what the Constitution is. So Roberts is a toss-up. Maybe leaning Trump? I don't know. So 4-3, Barrett and Roberts uncommitted. If Roberts goes with the 4 conservatives, Barrett goes with him probably, 6-3. If he ends up going with the libs, 5-4. It could even be 6-3 if Gorsuch goes the other way. Who knows? But in closing, What we do know is this: we owe our allegiance to the truth, not to a 19th century misreading or a 20th century administrative habit. The United States is one of the few nations on earth that still practices unconditional jus soli. And the open borders crowd, the Democrats, will die on this hill because they seem to have planted their long-term electoral hopes on replacement theory. But if we apply originalism honestly, it does not seem possible to read the Constitution and 14th Amendment in its original meaning to mandate universal, automatic birthright citizenship. If America is going to remain a nation defined by consent, sovereignty, self-government, we must be willing to question assumptions, challenge administrative anachronism, and boldly contest accepted narratives. That is what our heritage demands. It is what our Constitution requires, and it is what our children deserve. Thank you. And I know I went over time. My apologies. I'll be happy to stick around to chat with people individually. Thank you very much, Morton, for inviting me today.
Well, Michael, that is as forceful a presentation as I've ever heard delivered here. Very spirited. I thank you for coming. I'm sorry that we've run over. We don't have time for questions, but appreciate you agreeing to stick around and talk with people who wish to do so. Let me offer you, as a token of our appreciation, this Adam Smith tie. Wear it in good health.
I will, and it's really an honor to be here with you. Let's get a good picture with me and Morton, please. Thank you.
All right, 1, 2,
3. Thank you. I'd like Zoe Dockery to step up here, please. Where are you? Okay, you should have sat closer to the lectern. But we appreciate everybody coming, and we invite you to come back for our next Wednesday Wake Up Club breakfast. Zoe Dockery here is prepared to give any of you who are interested a tour of our Stephen P.J. Wood building here and the 2 additional floors that we have leased in the adjacent building. Zoe will give you a great tour of the Leadership Institute. She'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And if she can't answer a tough question you ask, she may pop up to my office and ask me. Thank you all for coming to this wonderful breakfast, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. We stand adjourned.